Hi, I'm Steve Plank, and everybody calls me Planky, and today I've been talking about projecting your corporate identity into the cloud. So why would you want to do that? Well, if your applications that you use inside your company, you'd really like to have exactly the same experience as a user. If you sort of log onto a system, you don't get prompted for credentials or anything like that when you're inside the network, so why should you be prompted for credentials if you're using an application that's outside of your network, running in the cloud? And so that means that we first have to worry about how we project our identity into the cloud, but we first really have to worry about what is identity. And we can reduce that down to something really simple, which is an identity, in terms of the internet, is a set of claims made by one subject about another subject. So it might be me making claims about myself, in which case I'm both subjects, but it's just one entity saying, for example, his first name is this, his last name is this, his role is this, and his age is this, as an example. And as long as there's a trust relationship of some description between the two entities, the consumer and the provider, then the consumer can trust that information. Okay, so if we want to use this kind of a system, then we rely on something which is called claims-based identity and claims-based access. And that's where we just really don't worry about things like authentication and authorization. All we really do is we say, well, you over there, you can do the authentication for me. You can do the checking of the password, check he's got his username right. If that all works okay, then you pass me a token which contains the claims that I want. And the whole thing becomes policy driven. So that what happens is you deploy your application to the cloud, you deploy your policy onto the application that's in the cloud, and the application says, I want to have this claim from this service. And this service might be a service, an Active Directory service, a security token service that's sat on top of your Active Directory in your own organization. Well, when you came in the morning, you logged into the Active Directory, you were therefore authenticated. So the dance goes, the user types in the URL, they go to the application that's up in the cloud redirects them to their Active Directory. Their Active Directory has already authenticated them. The security token service that sat on their Active Directory gives them a token with the claims in it. The token then comes down to the local user machine, gets posted up to the application then checks the signature on the token, consumes the contents of that token, works out what the claims are, and then gives you the service based on those claims. So for example, it might say that you're in the role of purchaser, in which case it would allow you to purchase something. Or it might be that you're in the role of administrator, in which case you'd be able to administer some aspect of the system. That's the simplest example. Now, clearly you could do something, you could do multiple hops. I could go to the application, which would then say, this is my policy, which redirects me to a Federation Gateway, which is running in the cloud, and there's one in the Azure cloud called the Microsoft Federation Gateway, and that can federate with my local identity store, my Active Directory. And the reason for doing that is you might have multiple applications deployed into the cloud. And so it doesn't matter which one of those applications I go to, it's always going to federate directly with my Federation Gateway, which will always federate directly with my organization. So I only have to set up one relationship. I set up one relationship between my Active Directory and the Federation Gateway, and it understands all the applications that are deployed into the cloud. And then the final thing is to put in an access control service. So in this case we have our application, we have our access control service, we have our Federation Gateway, and we have our Active Directory. So the way the dance goes this time is I type in the URL, I go to the application. The application points me to the access control service. The access control service pushes me to the Federation Gateway. Federation Gateway pushes me to Active Directory. I've already authenticated. I get my token. It goes to the Federation Gateway. The Federation Gateway takes the contents of the token, re-signs them, sends them back to me, and they go to the access control service. And this is where the magic happens now, because the access control service has a token coming in with a set of claims. It extracts those claims, runs through a transformation process, and ends up with a different set of claims. Or it could simply copy them. The transformation process could be copy the claims. But typically it's going to be maybe, an example would be, I take the role purchaser from this token and I convert it to buyer, because my applications in the cloud understand the buyer claim, as an example. Could be much more complicated than that. Then The access control service pushes the token back to me, I present it to the application, and the application works. And that's the simple and quick explanation of how we can deploy applications into the cloud. All we really need is protocols which are able to interoperate between all the different systems you might come across. And the main protocols that we support in Microsoft are the SAML Web SSO protocol, WS Federation, and WS Trust. And the great thing about this is it means that lots of the other vendors, pretty much all of the vendors now, are supporting either 2 or 3 of those protocols in their federation products. So it means that any other vendor's products can also federate with the cloud. It's just that the difference between using maybe Active Directory to federate is that that's your primary network logon typically. If you were to use something like IBM Directory Server and Tivoli Federated Identity Manager, you'd probably already log into Active Directory, and then you do a separate login to Tivoli in order to get access to your cloud applications. Now, of course, if that's the way your company works, that's fine. If it's not, then you just use whatever the federated product is from your vendor of choice. And that's it.